Chapter 10. When Rob awoke around 11:30 in the morning, his eyes were staring at the ceiling. The first words out of his mouth on the fresh new day were, "I know where he is." What?" Sue asked sleepily. She and Michelle had just woken up a few minutes before and had been having a whispery good-morning conversation with the blanket still pulled up over them, despite the day's increasingly intensifying heat outside. Sue kept the air conditioner at 69 degrees. She liked it that way. Not for any cheesy sexual reference as a reason, though. In the wintertime, however, she couldn't stand the thermostat to be below 74 degrees. She liked her creature comforts and got a lot of mileage out of them. "Mel's Motel," he said. "What are you talking about?" Sue asked, sounding more awake. "He's in Kansas. He's heading west. At this very moment, he's getting ready to check into Mel's Motel in Kansas City." "Who?" Michelle asked, and then said, "Oh." "Oh," said Rob. "What, oh?" "I told her some of the stuff, Rob," Sue said. "Oh," he said. "It's okay, you can trust her." Michelle scrunched her eyebrows and smiled. "All right," he replied, feeling a tinge of betrayal but sounding fine with it. There was a lengthy, awkward silence, then Rob spoke again. "It's still too soon to really do anything, but I guess I should do something at some point." "Like what?" Sue asked. "I don't exactly know yet, but I feel like I will soon. I can't really go to the cops. They wouldn't believe me, or maybe I could be anonymous and vague, but I just don't think that would work. It doesn't feel like it would." "We could try to get the number for the Kansas police and just have them check," Michelle offered. "I don't think he would still be there, or maybe it would be worse for them if he was. It just won't work. I know it, and I know I need to do something, and I'm getting close to what it is." After another vocal stillness, Sue asked, "Do you want to do anything today, Rob?" "Yeah, I want to stop by my place and get the check my mom sent for me. Hopefully it's there." "Sure. But why don't you stay here with us a little while longer?" She ignored Michelle's slight nudge of her elbow in her side. "Really?" he asked. She nodded, and so did Michelle, who let out a grunt of approval. "That would be great," he said while sighing with relief. "Great. It's settled," Sue said. Later that afternoon he opened his mailbox and the envelope was there. His mother had overnighted it. There was also a phone bill, but that was definitely going to have to wait. Michelle, meanwhile, was getting ready for another night at work. Sue had the night off. Rob locked the mailbox back up and turned to Sue and said, "Awesome. Now I can almost pay my rent." "Yay, that's always good." "I just want to run up and grab a few things. We can grab a couple of movies, CDs, whatever." "Sure." They climbed the 2 flights of stairs in the drab building. The only thing that could add to the hallway's creepy mood would be the old standard flickering fluorescent bulb. Rob put his key in the lock and opened the door. He paused and then slowly entered the room with Sue walking the same pace behind him. "What happened?" she asked a few seconds later. Everything was fine except for one thing. The bed had been overturned and was several feet across from where it had been, as if it had been thrown in anger. Rob turned to look at her and said, "They came here first." They rode to the bank mostly in silence. Sue had said she was pretty scared, but Rob just felt numb. He had righted the bed and grabbed everything he planned on getting, clothes, toiletries, entertainment, etc. He knew how to function in the midst of weirdness. They were going to the bank so Rob could deposit his check. He was going to just use the ATM. There was no way in hell he was ever going back in there if he could help it. He was waiting for the monthly fees to kick in since he was no longer an employee. After he deposited the check, he reread the letter his mom had sent him along with it while Sue drove. It just said the basic things and to let her know if he needed any more help. It ended saying to give her a call and that she really needed to talk to him soon. He thought they just talked about quite enough for now. He folded it back up, put it back in its envelope, and stuffed it into his front pocket. "So how much did you tell her?" Rob asked abruptly at no particular point in the drive. She pulled over to the side of the road and parked the car in front of a chiropractic office and said, "Pretty much everything." "Great. She thinks I'm fucking crazy, you know." "No, she doesn't," Sue answered sternly. "Yes, she does. She's trying to be cool with all of this, but I can tell it's draining her nerves." "Guess what? It's draining mine, too." He looked at her with hurt surprise. Was she done with him? "Yeah, and it's draining yours, too. This is an intense situation, Rob. Michelle and I haven't had any real time with this, and it's going to take a toll. Oh, well, that's just how it is, but we are in this with you for whatever you need us for. Also, you can't expect to dump all this on me and just have me keep it to myself. Michelle is one of my best friends, and she lives with me. It's not fair to keep her in the dark if she's in the middle of it. I think, too, that the more people that can help, the better." Rob's puffed-up posture deflated slightly, somewhat comforted by the truths that had just been dished out. Then he quietly said, No one can help me. She still had her hands at 10 and 2 on the steering wheel and said, I don't believe that. Then she started the car up and added, Want to get some lunch? Okay. They got a couple of 99-cent burgers to go and ate in the park. They sat under an enormous pine, letting the sunlight spackle them and the occasional needles rain down on them. You really think you can help? He asked her with a mouthful of food. Maybe, she said, almost sounding as if she had something in mind. I'll do what I can. Good, because I want to try an experiment. What kind of experiment? He took a bite of burger and said through it, This is going to sound horrible, and like I'm using you guys or something, and it could be really dangerous. I don't even know what to do if I'm wrong. Just spit it out, whatever you want to say, not your food, you pig. He smiled for a second, swallowed, and then with a straight face said, I think they can only come if you're alone. Really? What are you basing that on? Well, there are a few common denominators that go along with all of my experience, and the first one is that I'm always alone. They also seem to only come at night. I know it took that little girl recently when she was alone, at night. Neither of them was eating anymore. He continued, I know it got her mother too, but I think it's because she walked in on it and caught it in the act. I think that they are physical beings. They're really there. So maybe they can only come when you're alone, but once they're here, they don't just go poof and disappear just because someone else shows up. Maybe it just has to be dark. Maybe it doesn't even have to be night. Or maybe I'm completely wrong and they can just come and go whenever and wherever they please. I'm really just basing this on a kind of instinct. Wait. Sue had her hands up. You want to try calling on them and have me and Michelle come in and see if they're still there? What? No. I was just asking if I didn't have to sleep alone. Oh, God, she sighed. Of course. You were starting to scare the hell out of me. She laughed with nervous relief. He looked at her slightly confused. Where did you even get that from? She just shook her head dismissively. It's a pretty big favor to ask, but not anywhere near as bad as what you were thinking. He was starting to laugh, too. You are one crazy bitch. You know it. But seriously, no, it's fine. You can sleep in our room if you don't mind the makeshift sleeping bag, or maybe we can camp out in the living room. I don't care. He almost asked if she thought Michelle would be okay with it, and even though he wouldn't intend it to be, he thought it would come across sounding petty. Instead, he said, Oh, sleep. That's another one. I've usually been asleep when they've come. I don't know if that has any relevance. Maybe we'll find out tonight, she said, half kidding. What if they never intended on coming tonight? What if they don't plan on coming back for like a week or something, he asked very seriously. It's okay. We'll be here in a week or something. Thank you. They finished up the grub, even though their discussion had severely diminished their appetites, and headed back to her apartment. They just hung out and had a leisurely time. There was no more talk about the monsters until the nightly news. The day before, 2 more people had been killed, one in Washington and the other in Georgia. 6 more had also gone missing in the past 2 days from states spread out all over the country. There were a few witnesses who had only heard sounds of very brief struggles. One of them was even a co-worker, and it had happened in an office building. The missing man had gone into a supply room and had never come out or been seen again. The night before, 5 more bodies had been discovered in the state of Kansas. There was an 82-year-old man who lived on the outskirts of town, and an attendant at Mel's Motel in the heart of the city, along with 3 guests. Oh my God, Sue said, touching her lips with the first 2 fingers of her left hand. She looked at Rob, who was sitting on the opposite end of the sofa. I know. He looked apathetic. I don't think I have any more surprise left in me. I knew this was all real, but I didn't really know, you know? What the hell is going on? I don't know. I really don't. When the news was over, Sue turned to him and said, Don't be mad, but when Michelle gets home, I need to talk to her for a few minutes. I want to let her know what's going on. There's also a few other things she and I have to discuss. She paused and then added, The other stuff isn't about you. That was a polite lie. That's okay. It's your place. You don't have to ask. Besides, I did that to her last night. Oh, that's right. Now it's payback time. They both smiled weakly. Sue then chirped, Michelle is usually starving when she gets off work. You want to help me make dinner? Sure. Great. She's a total bitch when she's hungry. Me too, Rob said. They made stir-fry vegetables with ground beef. While they were cutting and mashing and seasoning and finally cooking, cleaning would come later, much later. Sue asked Rob what he was going to do finance-wise, especially since he wouldn't be getting unemployment. He said he was going to file an appeal against that decision and, in the meantime, he would cash in his 401k and live on that until he got another job, possibly at the diner. Their conversation got lighter and soon Michelle came in,